The space station Unity hung like a gleaming silver star against the backdrop of swirling nebula clouds. Its rotating rings caught the light of the nearby sun, sending sparkles across its polished surface. Every 100 years, the Galactic Council chose this neutral location for their military showcase, where the greatest powers in known space displayed their might. Today marked a special occasion. For the first time in the summit's long history, humans had been invited. "I still think it was a mistake to invite them," grumbled Vex as he adjusted his formal military sash. The tall, thin alien had skin that shifted between shades of blue and gray. His 3 eyes blinked in sequence as he watched ships dock through the observation window. "The council voted," replied Tora, her red-scaled skin catching the light as she shrugged 4 massive shoulders. "Humans have had faster-than-light travel for 30 years now. Rules say any species with FTL capabilities gets an invitation." "Rules can be bent," Vex countered. "What do they have to show us anyway? Their ships are like children's toys compared to ours." Across the gleaming reception hall, 3 other military leaders engaged in similar conversations. Mech, with his insect-like features and clicking mandibles, was explaining to anyone who would listen how his people's ships could outmaneuver any human vessel. Grell, whose rock-like skin made him look like a walking statue, laughed loudly at the idea of humans building anything that could withstand a real attack. And Pax, whose delicate features and glowing eyes hinted at mental powers beyond normal comprehension, simply smiled in quiet amusement. The 5 of them represented the most powerful military forces in the galaxy, and all of them agreed on one thing: humans did not belong here. The main doors slid open with a soft hiss. Conversation halted as a single figure walked into the hall. The human was not what they expected. He wore a simple dark blue uniform with minimal decorations, and his face showed neither excitement nor nervousness. Just calm focus. "Commander Jack Reynolds," announced the station's AI, "representative of Earth and the Sol System Defense Force." Jack nodded politely to the room. "Thank you for the invitation. Earth is honored to join this historic summit." Vex approached first, towering over the human by at least 2 feet. "Commander Reynolds, I am Supreme Admiral Vex of the Azuri Empire. I must say, we were surprised when we heard humans would attend this year." "Good surprises make life interesting, Admiral," Jack replied with a small smile. Tora joined them, her heavy footsteps making the floor vibrate slightly. "Battlemaster Tora of the Krell Dominion. Your species has achieved much in a short time. Human. But this summit showcases the pinnacle of military achievement. I hope you won't feel too overwhelmed." "I appreciate your concern," Jack said, his expression remaining neutral. "I'm here to learn as much as to share." One by one, the other alien leaders introduced themselves, each greeting containing a thinly veiled suggestion that humans were out of their league. Chief Strategist Mech of the Hive Collective, War General Grell of the Stone Confederation, Thought Admiral Pax of the Lumina Concord. Jack greeted each with the same quiet respect, neither boasting nor showing any sign of intimidation. The station's AI chimed again. "All representatives have arrived. Please proceed to the presentation chamber for the opening ceremony." The grand hall had been prepared for the showcase. A massive holographic display dominated the center, currently showing the Unity station with hundreds of ships surrounding it. The alien leaders took their seats at the raised platform, with Jack directed to a smaller chair off to the side. The council mediator, a tall being with silvery skin and no visible face, floated to the center stage. "Welcome to the Centennial Military Showcase." Its voice resonated without seeming to come from any specific location. "For 100,000 years, this gathering has maintained peace through the balance of power. Today we welcome our newest, spacefaring neighbors, the humans of Earth." There was polite applause, though Jack noticed several delegations barely participated. "We will begin with presentations from our established powers, followed by our new guests. Admiral Vex, you may begin." Vex stood proudly, activating a control on his wrist. The hologram shifted to show a sleek, dark vessel that seemed to fade in and out of visibility. "The Shadow Strike," he announced. the pride of the Azuri fleet. Its adaptive camouflage can render it completely invisible to all known detection systems. It can enter an enemy system, deploy devastating weapons, and leave without ever being detected. The crowd murmured appreciatively as the hologram showed, the ship demonstrating its cloaking abilities. Our engineers have worked for 2 centuries to perfect this technology, Vex continued, glancing at Jack. The ultimate predator needs no armor when it cannot be seen. Jack watched attentively, occasionally making small notes on a simple pad. Tora went next, displaying a massive dreadnought that dwarfed Vex's ship. The World Breaker, she growled, with pride. The largest battleship ever constructed by the Krell. Its main cannon can crack a planet's crust from orbit. No fleet has ever stood against it and survived. The hologram showed a demonstration where the massive ship fired at an uninhabited moon, breaking it into large chunks. The audience gasped. One by one, the alien commanders presented their vessels. Mech's swarm cloud released thousands of drone fighters that moved in perfect coordination. Grell's starshield demonstrated shields that repelled even the most powerful weapons in simulated attacks. Pax's Mindweaver showed how it could project fear into enemy crews, causing ships to surrender without firing a shot. After each presentation, eyes turned to Jack, watching for signs of intimidation or awe. He remained attentive, but calm, taking notes and occasionally nodding in appreciation of particularly impressive features. When all 5 had finished, the mediator turned to Jack. Commander Reynolds, the Council now welcomes Earth's presentation. Vex smirked. Yes, human. Show us what your young species has managed to cobble together. The room grew quiet as Jack stood and approached the center platform. Instead of activating the hologram, he simply looked around the room. Thank you for your impressive demonstrations, he said. Earth's contribution to this showcase is still en route. It will arrive tomorrow morning. Murmurs of surprise and some mocking laughter spread through the audience. Your ship is late? Mech asked, mandibles clicking in what seemed like laughter. Not late, Jack replied. Right on schedule. Some things are worth waiting for. Tora leaned forward. Why not just show us holographic data like everyone else? Jack smiled slightly. We prefer real demonstrations over simulations. I hope you'll understand tomorrow. As the session adjourned, the 5 alien commanders gathered, watching Jack leave the chamber. Did you see his face? Vex said. No reaction to our ships. Either humans are too primitive to understand what they saw, or what? Asked Grell. Pax spoke softly, eyes still on the door where Jack had exited. Or they have something they think will impress us, which seems unlikely. We'll see tomorrow, Tora said with a dismissive wave of her hand. Though I suspect we'll all be very underwhelmed. None of them noticed the small smile on Jack's face as he walked down the corridor, or the quiet message he sent from his wrist device. Stage set. Bring her in. 5 aliens boasted about their battleships until they witnessed ours Part 2. The boasts, the evening reception aboard Space Station Unity, glittered with the light of 1,000 stars. Representatives from every corner of the galaxy mingled in the Grand Observation Dome, their diverse forms creating a living tapestry against the backdrop of space. Floating servers carried drinks of every color while diplomats and military officers discussed the day's presentations. Jack Reynolds stood alone by the curved viewport, watching the alien ships that surrounded the station. Each vessel was positioned, to be clearly visible, a floating testament to their creator's pride. Admiring superior technology, human? Jack turned to find Vex approaching, 2 drinks in hand. The Azuri Admiral offered one to Jack, who accepted with a nod. I appreciate good engineering when I see it, Jack replied, taking a small sip. The liquid tasted like cinnamon and something he couldn't name. Your reaction to our presentations was interesting, Vex said, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. Most newcomers are overwhelmed. Jack smiled. Earth has a saying, never show. Your card's too early in the game. Cards? Game? Vex's translator seemed confused. It means don't reveal your strengths until the right moment. Before Vex could respond, Tora's booming voice called out across the room. There he is! The human who keeps us waiting! The massive red-scaled alien commander pushed through the crowd, followed by the other 3 alien leaders. Why so mysterious about your ship, Commander? Tora asked, looming over Jack. Surely you could show us at least a diagram. Jack took another sip of his drink. I prefer to let actions speak louder than words. Another Earth saying. Mech's mandibles clicked rapidly, the insectoid alien's equivalent of a chuckle. Perhaps there is nothing to show. Perhaps this is just human... What is your word? Bluffing. That would be unwise, Jack replied, his voice calm but firm. Earth doesn't bluff about military matters. Grell, the stone-skinned commander, rumbled with laughter. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Tell us, human, what could your species possibly create that would compare to what you saw today? You've had space travel for what, a century? We've been crossing the stars for thousands of years. Jack turned to face all 5 alien commanders. The room had grown quieter as others noticed the confrontation. You're right that we're newcomers to space, Jack admitted. But you're wrong. To think that means we're behind in all ways. Pax, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. The Lumina commander's glowing eyes studied Jack intently. You speak with unusual confidence for someone whose people have never attended this summit before. Experience isn't always measured in years, Jack replied. Sometimes it's measured in intensity. What does that mean? Tora demanded. Jack looked around at the 5 alien leaders. How many wars has your species fought in the last 500 years, Battlemaster Tora? The question seemed to surprise her. 3 major conflicts. All victories for the Krell Dominion. Jack nodded, then looked to each alien in turn, asking the same question. 2 wars of expansion, Vex answered. The Hive has fought 4 defensive wars, clicked Mech. 1 great war, 3 centuries ago, rumbled Grell. The Lumina avoid physical conflict when possible, Pax said softly. 1 defensive action in recent history. Jack nodded again. Earth's history includes over 15,000 recorded wars. Before we reached space, we fought over 300 major conflicts just in the last 500 years. Our most devastating war killed nearly 100 million people in 6 years. The alien commander stared at him in shocked silence. That's barbaric, Vex finally said. That's survival, Jack corrected. We learned to build better weapons because we had to. We perfected military technology because failure meant extinction. You're proud of this violent history? Pax asked, her glowing eyes dimming slightly. Not proud, Jack said, his expression serious. But we don't deny what it taught us. While your civilizations were enjoying peace among the stars, we were testing weapons against each other that could level cities in seconds. An uncomfortable silence fell over the group. Other guests had stopped their conversations to listen. Tora broke the tension with a forced laugh. Big talk from a small species. Tomorrow, we'll see if there's any truth to it. Indeed we will, Jack replied. The reception continued, but the 5 alien commanders kept their distance from Jack for the rest of the evening. They gathered instead at the far side of the dome, speaking in low voices. Do you believe what he said? Mech asked. 15,000 wars? Impossible, Grell rumbled. No species could survive that much conflict. Unless they became very, very good at warfare, Vex pointed out. Tora shook her massive head. Talk is easy. Tomorrow we'll see this supposed human warship. I expect to be underwhelmed. I'm not so certain, Pax said quietly. I sense no deception from him, only anticipation. Across the room, Jack caught fragments of their conversation with his enhanced hearing. The slight smile that touched his lips went unnoticed as he turned back to the viewport, his eyes finding a particular spot in the distant darkness of space. Morning came to Space Station Unity as its rotation brought the main habitation ring into the light of the system's sun. Jack stood in his quarters, straightening his uniform before a mirror. His communication device chimed softly. Reynolds here. Commander, this is Captain Lin. We're ready when you are. Perfect timing. Hold. Position just outside sensor range until I give the signal. Understood, sir. The crew is looking forward to the reveal. Jack smiled. So am I, Captain. Reynolds out. When Jack arrived at the presentation chamber, he found all 5 alien commanders already there, along with most of the summit attendees. The room buzzed with speculation about the human ship. Commander Reynolds, the mediator's voice echoed. The Council is eager to see Earth's contribution to this summit. Jack took his place at the center platform. Thank you, mediator. Earth is honored to present our vessel today. He activated his wrist device, and the large hologram display in the center of the room came to life. At first it showed only empty space near the station. Where is it? Someone called out. Jack tapped his device again. Captain Lin, you may bring her in now. The hologram shifted to show a different area of space. At first, nothing changed. Then, sensors picked up something entering the system. The display automatically adjusted to track the object. What is that? Vex asked, leaning forward. The object grew larger on the display as the station's sensors calculated its distance and size, then recalculated again. A murmur of disbelief spread through the crowd. That can't be right, Tora said, staring at the size readings. The sensors must be malfunctioning. The sensors are working perfectly, Jack replied calmly as the object drew closer. Its true form became visible. It was a ship, but unlike any the aliens had seen before. Dark, angular, and massive beyond comprehension. The station's holographic display struggled to fit the entire vessel in view. I present to you, Jack announced, the HSS Leviathan, a mid-sized vessel in Earth's deep space fleet. The room erupted in shocked exclamations. The 5 alien commanders stood frozen, staring at the impossible ship that made their prized vessels look like toys in comparison. Vex was the first to find his voice. Mid-sized? He asked weakly. Jack nodded. Yes, Admiral. We have smaller, and we have larger. The human allowed himself a small smile as the Leviathan continued its approach, casting a shadow across the assembled fleet of alien ships. The boasting had ended. Now the real demonstration would begin. 5 aliens boasted about their battleships until they witnessed ours Part 3. The revelation, the presentation chamber of Space Station Unity had fallen into stunned silence. On the massive holographic display, the HSS Leviathan continued its approach, each new detail of the human battleship becoming clearer as it neared. The ship was unlike anything the gathered aliens had ever seen. While their vessels followed the elegant curved designs preferred by most spacefaring races, the Leviathan was all hard angles and flat planes. Its dark hull seemed to swallow light rather than reflect it. Most shocking was its size. Initial readings suggested it was nearly 5 times larger than Tora's Worldbreaker, previously considered the largest warship in the galaxy. This is impossible, Vex finally said, breaking the silence. His blue-gray skin had paled considerably. No, species builds ships this size. The resources required, the engineering challenges, all solved, Jack replied calmly. The Leviathan was built inside Jupiter's orbit using materials harvested from the asteroid belt. It took our shipyards 3 years to complete. 3 years? Mech's mandibles clicked rapidly in agitation. The swarm cloud took 20 years to design and build, Jack nodded. We work quickly when necessary. Tora stepped closer to the hologram, her red scales gleaming as she studied the human ship with newfound respect. What are its weapon systems? Before Jack could answer, an alarm sounded throughout the station. The mediator floated forward, its silvery form rippling with concern. Unauthorized weapon activation detected, it announced. Multiple ships are powering up defensive systems. On secondary displays around the room, the gathered aliens could see their own vessels moving into defensive positions, shields activating and weapons coming online. Stand down, Grell ordered into his communication device. This is not an attack. The same is happening with my ships, Vex said, his 3 eyes blinking rapidly as he received updates. The automated defense protocols have activated. They've identified the human vessel as a potential planet-killer class threat. More alarms joined the first as the station itself began emergency procedures, blast doors sealed, and non-essential systems shut down. Station Unity is now at Defense Level 1, announced the station's AI. All non-military personnel please proceed to emergency shelters. Pax turned to Jack, her glowing eyes intense. Your ship has triggered every defense system in the sector. What exactly have you brought here? Jack remained remarkably calm amid the chaos. Exactly what I said. A mid-sized battleship. I apologize for the alarm. The Leviathan's passive signature must be stronger than we anticipated. He tapped his wrist device. Captain Lin, power down all offensive systems and broadcast peaceful intentions on all frequencies. The voice that replied was clear and professional. Already done, Commander. We're showing full transparency to the station and all vessels. No weapons hot, shields at minimum. Slowly, the alarms quieted. The 5 alien commanders huddled together, speaking in urgent tones as they communicated with their respective ships. Jack turned to the mediator. With your permission, I'd like to invite the 5 commanders aboard the Leviathan for a tour. It might help ease concerns. The mediator's featureless face gave no indication of emotion, but its voice sounded surprised. You would allow foreign, military leaders aboard your vessel? Of course, Jack said. This is a showcase after all, and Earth has nothing to hide. The 5 alien commanders exchanged looks of uncertainty. Finally, Vex stepped forward. I accept the invitation, he said. The others followed his lead, though Grell did so with visible reluctance. Excellent, Jack said. We'll take a shuttle from the station's main bay in 1 hour. The journey to the Leviathan took longer than expected. What had appeared close in the holographic display was actually much further away, another indication of the ship's true size. As their shuttle approached, the 5 alien commanders pressed against the viewports, unable to hide their awe. From this distance, the Leviathan blocked out the stars behind it, a dark mountain floating in space. By the void, whispered Tora. It's even bigger than the scan suggested. Our sensors had difficulty calculating its true dimensions, Jack explained. The hull material absorbs most scanning waves. The shuttle entered a massive bay that could have housed any of the aliens' flagship vessels, with room to spare. Inside, everything was orderly and efficient. Hundreds of smaller craft, fighters, bombers, and support ships were arranged in perfect rows. Crew members in dark uniforms moved with purpose, barely glancing at the arriving shuttle. When they disembarked, a woman in a captain's uniform was waiting. Welcome aboard the Leviathan, she said with a crisp salute. I'm Captain Lin. Commander Reynolds has arranged a complete tour of our vessel. How many crew members does this ship require? Asked Mech, watching the humans moving about the bay, the Combiu. Leviathan operates with a standard complement of 15,000 personnel, Captain Lin replied, though it can function with as few as 500 in emergency situations. 15,000? Grell rumbled in disbelief. The Star Shield requires only 2,000. Different design philosophies, Jack said with a slight smile. We believe in redundancy. The tour began with the ship's bridge, a massive command center with stations for hundreds of officers. Displays showed every aspect of the ship's operations, from engineering to weapons to navigation. Unlike the colorful holographic interfaces of alien vessels, the human controls were practical and straightforward. Your technology seems less advanced than I expected, Vex observed, studying a navigation console. We favor reliability over flash, Captain Lin replied. Every system has at least 3 backups. Nothing fails completely. As they moved deeper into the ship, the alien commanders saw crew quarters, medical facilities, and recreational areas, all suggesting the Leviathan was designed for long deployments. This ship could remain operational for years without resupply, Pax noted. 5 years is the standard deployment, Jack confirmed. Though we've never tested the full duration, the engineering section revealed massive fusion reactors that powered the vessel. Chief Engineer Park, a stocky man with calloused hands, explained the basics. 6 primary reactors, 12 secondaries, he said proudly. Enough power to run a small moon colony. But it was the weapons control center that finally silenced all doubts. Row after row of weapons officers monitored systems that made the aliens' most destructive technologies look primitive by comparison. Kinetic impact rails, Weapons Officer Rodriguez explained, pointing to one section. They accelerate projectiles to near light speed. No shield can stop them. Plasma lance batteries, she continued, indicating another area. They can cut through capital ships like butter. And what are those? Tora asked, pointing to the largest display, where officers monitored massive cylindrical objects. Rodriguez glanced at Jack, who nodded permission. Nova bombs, she said simply. Designed to replicate a small supernova when detonated. We carry 12. The silence that followed was profound. Each alien commander was thinking the same thing. Such weapons could destroy not just ships, but entire fleets. Entire worlds. Why? Pax finally asked, her glowing eyes dimmed with horror. Why build such weapons? Jack's expression grew serious. Because we learned early in our history that being unprepared for threats can mean extinction. We built the Leviathan and ships like it, not because we want war, but because we never want to face an enemy we cannot defeat. As they returned to the shuttle bay, the 5 alien commanders were subdued. Their earlier boasting seemed hollow now, their prized warships suddenly inadequate. There's one more thing you should know, Jack said as they prepared to return to the station. The Leviathan is one of 30 similar vessels in Earth's fleet. Vex's 3 eyes widened in shock. 30? Jack nodded. Humanity takes defense seriously, very seriously. As their shuttle departed the massive ship, the 5 commanders looked back at the Leviathan with new understanding. They had come to the summit to showcase their military might, only to discover a species whose capacity for warfare exceeded anything they had imagined. The boasting had ended. In its place was something new, respect, tinged with fear. 5 aliens boasted about their battleships, until they witnessed ours Part 4, the demonstration. The 5 alien commanders returned to Space Station Unity in silence, each lost in their own thoughts about what they had witnessed aboard the human battleship. The shuttle docked smoothly, and as they exited into the station's main bay, they found a crowd waiting. Word of the Leviathan had spread quickly throughout the station. Well? Asked an eager Azuri officer as Vex emerged. Is it really as big as the sensors say? Bigger, Vex replied quietly. Much bigger. The commanders were quickly surrounded by officers from their respective fleets, all demanding details about the human vessel. Jack stood back, watching the animated conversations with a small smile. The mediator floated toward him, its silvery form reflecting the lights of the bay. Commander Reynolds, the Council requests a formal demonstration of your vessel's capabilities. Jack nodded. The Leviathan is prepared for a full demonstration. We'll need a suitable location away from the station. The outer system has a debris field from a destroyed moon, the mediator suggested. It would provide adequate targets without endangering any inhabited areas. Perfect, Jack agreed. We can begin in 2 hours. News of the upcoming demonstration spread quickly. The station's observation dome filled beyond capacity as representatives from every species gathered to watch. The 5 commanders stood at the front, their earlier confidence replaced by curious anticipation. Jack stood beside the holographic display controls, coordinating with Captain Lin. We're in position, Commander, Lin's voice reported. Targeting. Systems locked on the debris field, awaiting your command. Jack turned to the gathered audience. Today, the HSS Leviathan will demonstrate 5 key capabilities that represent the foundation of Earth's defense doctrine. He nodded to the 5 alien commanders. Each capability corresponds to the specialties your own vessels presented yesterday. We believe in learning from our galactic neighbors. Vex's eyes narrowed slightly. Had the humans somehow stolen their technology? Jack activated the display. The Leviathan appeared, positioned at the edge of a vast field of rocky debris, ranging from small asteroid-sized chunks to massive sections of what had once been a moon. First demonstration, stealth capabilities, Jack announced, looking directly at Vex. Admiral Vex's Shadow Strike impressed us with its adaptive camouflage. The Leviathan uses a different approach. On the display, the massive human battleship seemed to shimmer for a moment. Then, impossibly, it disappeared. Where did it go? Someone in the crowd asked. The Leviathan is now operating under full stealth protocols, Jack explained. It uses a multi-phase approach that combines light bending, technology, sensor dampening fields, and quantum phase shifting. Vex leaned forward, his three eyes scanning the display for any trace of the human ship. Our sensors can detect any cloaked vessel, he said, activating his own device to scan the area. Try to find us, Jack invited. After several minutes of increasingly frustrated attempts, Vex looked up. Nothing, he admitted. Not even a heat signature. Jack tapped his wrist device. Phase 1 complete, Captain. Proceed to Phase 2. The Leviathan reappeared suddenly, but in a completely different position than before. The ship didn't just cloak, Jack explained. It moved while undetectable. In combat, this allows us to reposition without enemy knowledge. Tora grunted in reluctant appreciation. Impressive, but stealth means little without firepower. Agreed, Jack said with a nod. Which brings us to our second demonstration, offensive capabilities. He gestured to the display. Battlemaster Tora's Worldbreaker showed impressive planet cracking. Weapons. The Leviathan will now demonstrate its primary offensive systems. The display zoomed in on the human ship as panels along its hull slid open, revealing row after row of weapon ports. Metal rails extended from some, while others glowed with contained energy. Target acquired, came Captain Lin's voice. Kinetic rail system engaged. A series of flashes erupted from the ship. On the display, several massive chunks of the debris field simply disappeared, transformed instantly into expanding clouds of dust. Those projectiles hit at 98% of light speed, Jack explained. The kinetic energy alone is enough to vaporize most materials instantly. Before the audience could react, the Leviathan shifted position. New weapon systems activated, sending beams of blinding energy into the debris field. Where they touched, moon fragments melted and then boiled away into nothingness. Plasma lance batteries, Jack continued, capable of cutting through any known hull material. Tora's massive form had gone still, her forearms crossed tightly across her chest as she watched her specialty being matched and exceeded. Third demonstration, Jack announced. Drone capabilities. Mech's mandibles clicked nervously as the human ship's massive bay doors opened. What emerged was beyond anything the insectoid commander had imagined. Not hundreds, but thousands of small craft poured from the Leviathan, each moving independently yet in perfect coordination with the others. Our autonomous combat drones are AI-controlled, Jack explained. Each operates with tactical independence but strategic coordination. The swarm of drones flowed like water through the debris field, navigating complex paths at incredible speeds. When they attacked, they did so with precision that left mechs speechless. The smallest fragments of the destroyed moon were targeted and eliminated with surgical accuracy. The Leviathan carries 10,000 combat drones, Jack added. This is approximately 20% of its full capacity. Mech's exoskeleton seemed to pale. The swarm cloud, his pride and joy, carried only 2,000 drones. Fourth demonstration. Defensive systems, Jack continued, nodding to Grell. General Grell's Starshield showed impressive defensive capabilities yesterday. The display split to show a different angle. The Leviathan recalled its drones and positioned itself before a particularly massive chunk of the destroyed moon, easily, the size of a small asteroid. Captain Lin will now demonstrate our multi-layer defense grid, Jack said. On the display, the rocky mass accelerated toward the human ship, pushed by hidden engines that had been placed earlier. Impact in 10 seconds, announced Captain Lin's voice. A shimmer appeared around the Leviathan as its shields activated. But unlike the solid-looking barriers of alien ships, these shields appeared in distinct layers, one after another. The asteroid slammed into the outermost shield and disintegrated, not into large chunks but into fine dust that harmlessly washed over the subsequent shield layers. Our defensive approach uses sequential fields, Jack explained. The outer shields break down incoming objects or energy weapons. Each subsequent Layer handles a specific type of threat. Nothing has ever penetrated all 7 layers. Grell's rocky face was impossible to read, but his massive hands had clenched into fists. Finally, Jack said, turning to Pax. Our 5th demonstration, psychological warfare countermeasures. Pax's glowing eyes widened. You cannot demonstrate that here, she protested. My ship is not even attempting to use its abilities. Precisely, Jack said with a slight smile. The Leviathan's psi-dampening field has been active since it entered the system. Had your Mindweaver attempted to use its psychic technology, your crew would have experienced discomfort. Pax took an involuntary step back. That's impossible. No species has developed effective counters to Lumina mental projection. Humanity has faced many challenges throughout our history, Jack replied, including ones that attacked our minds rather than our bodies. We adapted. The demonstration complete, Jack deactivated the display. The observation dome fell silent as the gathered representatives tried to process what they had seen. The 5 capabilities I've shown you today represent only a fraction of the Leviathan's full systems, Jack said. Earth came late to the stars, but we brought with us thousands of years of military innovation. He looked at each of the 5 commanders in turn. We didn't develop these technologies to threaten our neighbors. We developed them to ensure that humanity would never again face an existential threat without the means to defend itself. As the crowd began to disperse, discussing what they had witnessed in hushed, urgent tones, the 5 alien commanders gathered, together. This changes everything, Vex said quietly. If the humans have 30 ships of this capacity, then they could dominate the galaxy if they wished. Tora finished. Yet they haven't, Pax observed. They've kept to their own systems, developing these ships in secret. Mech's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. The question is, what do they want now? 5 aliens boasted about their battleships until they witnessed ours Part 5. The understanding, the final day of the Galactic Council's military summit began with an atmosphere of tension. The scheduled meetings and presentations continued, but one topic dominated every conversation: the human ship and what it meant for the balance of power in the galaxy. Jack Reynolds sat alone in the station's garden dome, enjoying a moment of quiet among the exotic plants gathered from 100 worlds. The artificial sunlight felt good on his face as he considered the events of the past few days. May I join you, Commander? Jack looked up to see Pax standing nearby, her glowing eyes dimmed to a gentle pulse. He gestured to the empty seat beside him. Of course, Admiral. The Lumina commander sat gracefully, her movements fluid and precise. For a moment, she simply observed the garden in silence. This is my favorite place on the station, she finally said. It reminds me that despite our differences, all life shares certain needs: light, water, a place to grow. Jack nodded. We're not so different when it comes down to it, aren't we? Pax turned to face him. Your ship, your weapons. They speak of a species unlike any we've encountered. Your capacity for warfare exceeds anything in known space. Our capacity for peace is just as great, Jack replied. We just never take it for granted. Before Pax could respond, her communication device chimed softly. The Council requests our presence, she said after checking it. All 5 commanders and you. Jack stood. Let's not keep them waiting. The Council chamber was smaller than the presentation hall, designed for private discussions rather than public displays. The mediator waited inside, along with the other 4 alien commanders. Thank you for coming, the mediator began once they were all seated. The events of this summit have raised concerns that must be addressed. Concerns? Jack asked, though he had anticipated this meeting. The human vessel represents a significant shift in the balance of power, the mediator continued. The Council must understand Earth's intentions. Jack looked around at the 5 alien commanders. All watched him with varying degrees of caution and curiosity. Earth's intentions are simple, he said. We wish to join the galactic community as equals, not conquerors. The Leviathan and our other ships exist for defense, not aggression. Defense against what? Vex asked, his three eyes blinking rapidly. No species in charted space has technology that could threaten your ships. Jack's expression grew serious. The galaxy is vast, Admiral Vex. Humanity learned early that it's wise to prepare for threats before they arrive, not after. You speak as if you expect war, Tora observed. We hope for peace but prepare for war, Jack replied. It's served us well. Grell leaned forward, his stone-like face impossible to read. The truth, human. What does Earth want from the Council? Jack took a moment before answering. When he did, his voice was calm, but firm. Earth wants what every civilization wants: security. We built our ships because our history taught us that strength is respected and the strong are rarely attacked. Yet you've kept these ships hidden until now, Mech noted, mandibles clicking softly. Why reveal them at this summit? Because isolation is no longer in our interest, Jack explained. Humanity has reached a crossroads. We can continue developing, alone, or we can join with others. We chose the latter. The mediator's silvery form shimmered slightly. What exactly are you proposing, Commander Reynolds? Jack straightened in his chair. Earth proposes a new alliance. We offer our defensive capabilities to the Galactic Council, not as conquerors, but as protectors. The chamber fell silent as the implications of this offer sank in. You want to be the galaxy's defenders? Vex asked incredulously. We want to share what we've learned, Jack corrected. Earth has focused on military technology out of necessity. Your civilizations have advanced in other areas while enjoying centuries of relative peace. Together, we could be stronger than we are apart. Tora laughed, though without her earlier mockery. Your ships would be the foundation of this alliance. Initially, yes, Jack agreed. But we're offering more than ships. We're offering partnership. Pax's eyes glowed brighter as she considered this. A partnership where each contributes their strengths, your military technology combined with our advancements in other fields. Exactly, Jack said with a nod. Earth doesn't seek to rule. We seek to belong while doing what we do best, protecting our own. The five commanders exchanged glances. A silent communication seemed to pass between them. The Council will need to vote on such a proposal, the mediator reminded them. All member species must have a voice. Of course, Jack agreed. Earth is patient. 3 days later, the vote was held. Representatives from every Council species gathered in the Great Hall to decide whether to accept Earth's proposal. Jack waited outside, standing at the viewport as he had on the first day. The door slid open behind him. He turned to find all 5 alien commanders approaching. Commander Reynolds, Vex said formally. The Council has reached its decision. Jack straightened, preparing himself for either outcome. Earth is accepted as a full member of the Galactic Council, Vex continued. Your proposal for a defensive alliance has been approved with certain conditions. Jack let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The conditions? Knowledge exchange, Mech explained, mandibles clicking excitedly. Your military technology for our advancements in medicine, energy, and exploration. Training programs, Tora added. Your officers will train with ours and ours with yours. Oversight committees, Grell rumbled, to ensure the alliance serves all equally. And cultural exchange, Pax finished, her eyes glowing warmly. To build understanding beyond military cooperation, Jack smiled. Earth accepts these conditions, then it is settled, the mediator announced, floating into the corridor to join them. The Galactic Defense Alliance is formed, with Earth as a founding member. As they walked together toward the Great Hall where the other representatives waited, Vex moved beside Jack. I must ask, Commander, the Azuri Admiral said quietly. Were you confident the Council would accept? Jack smiled slightly. I was hopeful. Humanity has learned that the best way to avoid war is to make the cost too high for potential enemies. The same principle applies here. The alliance benefits everyone. Because your ships will protect Council space, Vex observed, and because your civilizations will help humanity grow beyond warfare, Jack countered. We've spent millennia perfecting the art of battle. Now we can learn the art of lasting peace. As they entered the Great Hall, the gathered representatives rose in acknowledgement. The 5 alien commanders who had once boasted of their battleships now stood alongside the human whose ship had humbled them all. Yet there was no resentment in their posture, no bitterness in their eyes. Instead, there was something new: respect, acceptance, and perhaps even a touch of gratitude. The galaxy was changing. The species that had come late to the stars had brought with them something unexpected. Not just unmatched weapons, but a perspective forged in fire and tempered by hard-won wisdom. That evening, as the Leviathan prepared to depart for Earth, with news of the Alliance, Jack stood once more in Unity's observation dome. The 5 commanders joined him, watching as their own vessels moved into formation around the human battleship, not in challenge, but in escort. To think, Tora said with a rumbling laugh. We once boasted about our ships. Your ships are still impressive, Jack assured her. They're simply different. Different, Pax repeated thoughtfully. Perhaps that is what makes this alliance valuable. Not sameness, but difference, each contributing what others cannot. As they watched their ships move together through space, the 5 alien commanders and the humans stood not as rivals but as allies. The boasting was over. Understanding had taken its place. And somewhere in the vast darkness beyond, whatever unknown threats might exist would soon learn that the galaxy was now defended by both the wisdom of ancient civilizations and the fierce determination of its newest member. Humanity had arrived among the stars, not as conquerors, not as subjects, but as guardians. The stars twinkled like scattered diamonds against the vast darkness of space. The massive Imperial flagship Dominator moved silently through the void, its sleek silver hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. On the command bridge, Admiral Toll stood with his forearms clasped behind his back, his scaled skin reflecting the blue glow of the control panels. How much longer until we reach this Earth? He asked, the word sounding strange on his forked tongue. 3 hours. Admiral, replied Commander Mox, tapping on a transparent screen. Our scout ships have already entered their solar system and report minimal defensive capabilities. Admiral Toole nodded, his yellow eyes narrowing. The Emperor had sent him on many first contact missions before, but this one seemed hardly worth his time. These humans had barely managed to reach their own moon. Their technology was primitive, and their planet was divided into competing factions. They would be easy to bring into the Empire. Prepare the standard intimidation formation, ordered Admiral Toole. Let's show these primitives what real space power looks like. Behind the Dominator, 20 warships arranged themselves in perfect formation. Each one could destroy an entire city from orbit. The display of force had worked on hundreds of other species. It would work on humans too. As the Imperial fleet approached Earth, they detected unusual activity. The humans had noticed them coming and were scrambling their own vessels. Tiny, clumsy things powered by chemical rockets. Admiral Toole almost laughed at the sight of them on the view screen. Look at those primitive ships, sneered Commander Mox. They use combustion engines. How have they not blown themselves up yet? Remember, Commander, we were all primitive once, said Admiral Toole, though he couldn't hide his smile. Open communication channels. Let's see if they can at least talk properly. The main screen flickered, and a human face appeared. It belonged to General Tom, head of Earth's Unified Defense Command. His expression was calm, which surprised Admiral Toole. Most species showed fear when facing the Imperial fleet for the first time. Unknown vessels, this is Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves and state your purpose. Admiral Toole stepped forward, drawing himself up to his full height, nearly 8 feet tall. I am Admiral Toole of the Galactic Empire. Your planet has been noticed by Emperor Drac, ruler of 1,000 worlds. We come to offer you the opportunity to join our glorious empire as a protected territory. General Tom's expression didn't change. And if we're not interested in this opportunity? The question took Admiral Toole by surprise. Most species beg to join the Empire after seeing their fleet. Then we would be forced to demonstrate the benefits of our protection, said Admiral Tull, his voice growing colder. Your world faces many dangers in this galaxy. It would be unfortunate if you had to face them alone. General Tom nodded slowly. I see. Let me be clear, Admiral. Earth is not interested in becoming anyone's protected territory. We welcome peaceful relations with other civilizations, but we will defend our independence. Commander Mox couldn't contain his laughter. Defend? With what? Those metal cans you call spaceships? Admiral Tull raised a hand to silence his subordinate, but the damage was done. General Tom's eyes hardened. We may not have your advanced technology, Admiral, but humans have something your empire seems to lack: respect for others. I suggest you reconsider your approach. The communication ended abruptly, leaving Admiral Tull staring at a blank screen. For a moment, he felt a flicker of unease. Most species submitted immediately. These humans were either very brave or very foolish. They cut the transmission, exclaimed Commander Mox. The primitives dare to disrespect the Empire. Send a scout. Ship closer to their orbital stations, ordered Admiral Tull. Let's see how they react to a closer look at our technology. One of the smaller Imperial ships broke formation and moved toward Earth's orbit, where several space stations and satellites floated. As it approached, sensors detected increased activity from Earth. Admiral, the humans are launching something, reported the sensor officer. It appears to be a small vessel of some kind. Primitive design, but moving at surprising speed. On the view screen, they watched as a human ship approached their scout vessel. It was small, perhaps 1/10 the size of the Imperial Scout, with a boxy design that looked hastily assembled. Are they trying to attack us? Commander Mox laughed. With that? Admiral Tull wasn't laughing. Something felt wrong. Order our scout ship to maintain distance. But it was too late. The human vessel suddenly accelerated, moving with unexpected agility. It approached the Imperial scout ship and seemed to attach itself to its hull. What are they doing? Admiral Tull demanded. Before anyone could answer, a bright flash appeared on the screen. When it cleared, the Imperial scout ship was drifting, its systems offline. The human vessel had detached and was quickly retreating back to Earth. Impossible, shouted Commander Mox. They disabled an Imperial ship? How? Admiral Tull stared at the screen in disbelief. Analysis. What happened to our scout ship? It appears to be an electromagnetic pulse weapon, Admiral, said the science officer after a moment. Simple technology, but effectively deployed. Our scout ship systems are rebooting now. Admiral Tull felt a cold feeling in his stomach. No newly discovered species had ever damaged an Imperial vessel during first contact. It was unheard of. Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth again, said the communications officer. General Tom's face appeared on screen once more. That was a warning shot, Admiral. We prefer peace, but we are prepared for the alternative. You have 24 hours to leave our solar system. As the transmission ended, Admiral Tull stood in stunned silence. These humans were not like other species. They showed no fear. They had actually fought back and succeeded. Recall all ships, he finally ordered. We need to report this to the Emperor. These humans are unusual. As the Imperial fleet retreated to a safe distance, Admiral Tull gazed at the blue planet on the view screen. For the first time in his long career, he felt uncertain. The Empire had encountered thousands of species, but none quite like these humans. This isn't over, he murmured. The Empire doesn't tolerate resistance. We'll be back, humans, and next time we won't underestimate you. Little did he know that the Empire's worst nightmare was just beginning. 3 months had passed since the embarrassing first contact with Earth. The Imperial Council chambers buzzed with tension as Admiral Tull stood before Emperor Drac, explaining what had happened for the 20th time. And you're certain their technology was primitive? Asked Emperor Drac, his massive form looming on the throne. His skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with his irritation. Yes, Emperor. They still use combustion engines and chemical rockets. Their disabling of our scout ship was likely a lucky strike, Admiral Tull replied, trying to sound confident despite his doubt. Emperor Drax's eyes narrowed. Then we shall send a proper greeting force. Show these humans what it means to defy the Empire. Before Admiral Tull could respond, a junior officer burst into the chambers, breaking all protocol. "Forgive me, Emperor," he gasped, dropping to his knees. "Long-range sensors have detected something entering our controlled space in Sector 7. "What is it?" demanded the Emperor. "It appears to be a human ship, sir." A wave of laughter rippled through the council chamber. One small human ship was hardly a threat. "And this required interrupting our council?" Emperor Drax asked coldly. The officer trembled. "Sir, the ship is massive, nearly the size of our largest battlecruiser, and the energy reading, they're off the charts." The laughter died instantly. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Tull. "They were just figuring out how to reach their own moon." Emperor Drax rose from his throne. "Captain Ven." A tall, slender figure stepped forward from the shadows. Captain Ven was known throughout the Empire as their best strategist, with metallic implants covering half his face, enhancing his already impressive mental abilities. "Take your battle group to intercept this human vessel. Determine if it truly is from Earth, and if so, how they've advanced so quickly." Captain Ven bowed low. "As you command, Emperor." The Imperial battle group dropped out of faster-than-light travel near the edge of Sector 7. 5 sleek warships arranged themselves in attack formation, their weapons systems powered and ready. On the bridge of the lead ship, Invincible, Captain Ven studied the viewscreen with his organic eye, while his mechanical one processed data at incredible speeds. "There it is," his second-in-command said quietly, pointing to a blip on the sensor display. Captain Ven zoomed in on the object. What he saw made his breath catch. The ship was unlike anything in the Imperial database. It was massive, nearly as large as their largest battlecruiser, but with a completely different design philosophy. Where Imperial ships were sleek and elegant, this vessel was blocky and overbuilt, with thick armor plating and what appeared to be multiple redundant systems. "That can't be a human warship," Captain Ven said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Is that possible?" "Sir, they're hailing us," the communications officer reported. "On screen," ordered Captain Ven, straightening his uniform. The viewscreen flickered and a human face appeared. He wore a simple dark uniform with minimal decorations. "This is Captain Jack of the Earth vessel Defiance. We come in peace and request diplomatic talks with the Galactic Empire." Captain Ven studied the human carefully. "This is Captain Ven of the Imperial Defense Fleet. Your ship's capabilities exceed our intelligence reports on human technology. Explain yourselves." Captain Jack smiled slightly. "Captain, we've been watching the stars for centuries. Did you really think we would announce all our capabilities to the first aliens who arrived? You're claiming this level of advancement was hidden when we first contacted Earth?" Captain Ven asked incredulously. "Not hidden, just not displayed. Your Admiral Tull didn't exactly make a good first impression." Captain Ven's tactical mind raced. If the humans had deceived them about their technology, what else had they hidden? "Sir," his science officer whispered urgently, "our scans show their power source is some form of controlled fusion, but it's using principles our scientists believed were theoretically impossible to stabilize." Captain Ven kept his face neutral. "Captain Jack, the Emperor has authorized me to conduct preliminary negotiations. Would you be willing to come aboard my vessel?" "I'd be delighted," replied Captain Jack, "but I must insist on bringing a small security detail for diplomatic purposes." "Of course, we'll prepare a shuttle bay for your arrival." As the communication ended, Captain Ven turned to his crew. "Full analysis of that ship. I want to know everything about it before they arrive, and alert the Emperor immediately." An hour later, Captain Jack stood in the grand meeting room of the Invincible, accompanied by 3 human officers. They showed no signs of being impressed by the Imperial technology surrounding them. "Your ship is quite remarkable," Captain Venio began, gesturing for the humans to sit. "Our scientists are particularly interested in your power source." Captain Jack nodded. "Simple fusion, really. We've been working on it for centuries." But the containment field you're using shouldn't be possible, said the Imperial Science Officer. The energy required to maintain such stability would exceed the output. One of the human officers, a woman with short gray hair, smiled. That would be true if you approached the problem from an energy containment perspective. We approached it from a material science angle instead. Material science? Repeated Captain Venn, confused. While you were developing energy fields to contain plasma, we were developing materials that could physically hold it, Captain Jack explained. Different path, same destination. Captain Venn felt a chill run down his spine. The Empire had always focused on energy manipulation, considering physical materials to be a primitive approach. Had they been wrong all this time? And your weapons systems? He asked carefully. We prefer not to discuss those unless necessary, replied Captain Jack. We're here to talk peace, not war. Captain Venn nodded slowly. Of course. However, you must understand our concern. 3 months ago, you were barely able to reach your own moon. Now you arrive in a warship rivaling our best vessels. As I said, Captain, we've been watching the stars for a long time. We knew we weren't alone, so we prepared. When your Admiral Toole arrived making threats, we simply accelerated our timeline. Before Captain Venn could respond, his communication device buzzed. Excuse me, he said, stepping away to take the message. Sir, came the urgent voice of his sensor officer. We've detected energy signatures from the human vessel. They've activated some sort of weapon system. Captain Venn glanced back at the humans who were calmly waiting, showing no signs of hostility. Are they targeting us? He whispered. No, sir. But the energy output it's off the charts. Whatever they're powering up could potentially disable our entire battle group. Captain Venn returned to the table, his face carefully composed. Captain Jack, our sensors indicate your ship has activated weapon systems. Care to explain? Captain Jack's expression didn't change. Just a precaution, Captain. Your Emperor has dispatched another fleet to our location. They'll arrive within the hour. We wanted to be prepared, just in case diplomacy fails. Captain Venn felt his heart racing. How had the humans detected the reinforcements? Even more concerning, how had they built such advanced sensor technology? I assure you there's no need for weapons, Captain Venn said, trying to keep his voice steady. The Emperor merely wishes to ensure these talks proceed smoothly. Of course, said Captain Jack with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Then we'll continue our discussion. Now, about establishing formal diplomatic relations between Earth and your Empire. As the talks proceeded, Captain Venn couldn't shake the feeling that everything the Empire thought they knew about humans was wrong, and that realization terrified him more than any weapon ever could. The Grand Imperial Council chamber fell silent as Captain Venn finished his report about the human vessel, Defiance. Even Emperor Drac seemed shaken, his luminescent patterns pulsing erratically across his massive form. You mean to tell me, the Emperor said slowly, that these humans have achieved controlled fusion using material containment rather than energy fields? Captain Venn nodded, his cybernetic eye whirring as it projected data onto the large screen behind him. Yes, Emperor, and that's just the beginning. Their approach to technology is fundamentally different from ours. Admiral Toole stepped forward, his scales now a pale yellow from stress. Different how? Where we pursue elegant solutions with minimal components, they build redundant, over-engineered systems, Captain Venn explained. Where we refine and perfect, they iterate and improvise. Most importantly, they've developed along technological paths we abandoned centuries ago, seeing them as inefficient. The council chamber erupted in murmurs. The Empire had always prided itself on elegant technological solutions, systems that worked with perfect efficiency and minimal waste. The idea that a species would deliberately choose a different path seemed almost offensive. Emperor Drac raised a hand for silence. Bring in the human delegates. I wish to hear this from them directly. Minutes later, Captain Jack and his team were escorted into the chamber. They showed no signs of intimidation despite being surrounded by the Empire's most powerful leaders. Captain Jack of Earth, Emperor Drac's voice boomed across the chamber. Your ship has caused quite a stir among my advisors. We find ourselves curious about human technology. Captain Jack bowed slightly. We are happy to explain, Emperor, though I should warn you that I'm a soldier, not a scientist. Dr. Anna here would be better suited to answer technical questions. The woman with gray hair stepped forward. Perhaps I can clarify some misconceptions. When we detected your scout ships approaching our solar system months ago, we realized we needed to accelerate our plans. You knew we were coming? Admiral Toole asked, surprised. Dr. Anna smiled. We've been watching the stars for centuries. Our telescopes detected your ships long before you entered our system. Impossible, snorted the Imperial Science Advisor. Your technology couldn't possibly. Actually, Dr. Anna interrupted politely. While our space travel technology was indeed limited, our observational equipment is quite advanced. We've been studying the universe from our planet's surface for hundreds of years. She tapped a small device on her wrist, and a holographic display appeared in the center of the room. It showed what appeared to be the internal workings of the Defiance. The fundamental difference in our approach is this, she explained. Your empire builds ships like fine jewelry, precise, elegant, minimal. We build ships like fortresses, redundant, robust, over-engineered. The hologram zoomed in on the ship's power core. Take our fusion reactor. You contain plasma with energy fields, which is elegant but vulnerable to power fluctuations. We contain it with layers of specially developed materials that can physically withstand the heat and pressure. But that's so inefficient, protested the science advisor. Inefficient but reliable, countered Dr. Anna. If your energy field fails, your reactor fails. If one of our containment layers fails, we have 5 more backups. Emperor Drac leaned forward on his throne, genuinely intrigued. And this philosophy extends to all your systems? Yes, said Captain Jack, stepping forward again. Our ships don't have a single computer core. They have dozens of smaller ones that can take over, if others fail. We don't have one power distribution system. We have 6 separate grids. It's not elegant, but it's hard to kill. The hologram shifted to show the ship's weapon systems, and the Imperial Council grew noticeably tense. As for our weapons, Captain, Jack continued, we focused on kinetic energy rather than energy beams. Simple physics, mass times acceleration. We fire small projectiles at nearly the speed of light. Primitive ballistic weapons? Scoffed Commander Mox, who had been silent until now. Primitive concept, advanced execution, corrected Captain Jack. Each projectile masses only a few grams, but at near light speed it carries enough energy to disable a ship of your size. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Such weapons would bypass the Empire's sophisticated energy shields, which were designed to deflect energy weapons, not physical objects. Why reveal all this to us? Emperor Drac finally asked. Surely this gives away your tactical advantages. Captain, Jack's expression grew serious. Because we want peace, not war. Earth has no interest in conquest. We built the Defiance as a deterrent, not an invasion force. Dr. Anna added, we've been watching your empire expand for decades. We saw how you absorbed other species, sometimes peacefully, sometimes not. We decided it would be better to negotiate from a position of strength. Emperor Drac's bioluminescent patterns pulsed rapidly, a sign of deep thought among his species. And if we declined peaceful relations, if we decided your technology posed a threat to the Empire? Captain Jack's voice remained calm, but his eyes hardened. The Defiance isn't our only ship, Emperor. It's just the first one we decided to reveal. The implications hung in the air like a physical weight. If humans had been hiding this level of technological advancement, what else were they concealing? Admiral Toole's face showed shock. You're bluffing. Our scans detected no other ships of this capability in your system. Because they're not in our system, replied Captain Jack. After your first visit, we dispersed our fleet. Standard human military protocol. Never keep all your assets in one place. A junior officer rushed into the chamber, breaking protocol for the second time that day. He whispered urgently to Admiral Toole, whose scales paled even further. Emperor, Admiral Toole said shakily. Long-range sensors have detected energy signatures, similar to the Defiance's, in 7 different sectors of Imperial space. Emperor Drac stood abruptly, towering over everyone in the room. Is this an invasion, Captain Jack? No, Emperor. It's insurance. Captain Jack replied calmly. Those ships have orders to maintain position unless Earth is attacked. They're observers only. For the first time in his long reign, Emperor Drac found himself truly uncertain. These humans had not only developed technology along paths the Empire had abandoned, but they had also deployed it throughout Imperial space without detection. I believe, the Emperor said slowly, that we should continue these diplomatic talks in a more formal setting. Perhaps a treaty between our peoples would be beneficial. Captain Jack nodded. That's why we came, Emperor. Not to threaten, but to establish understanding. Humanity wishes to join the galactic community as equals, not subjects. As the humans were escorted to the diplomatic wing of the Imperial Palace, Admiral Toole approached Emperor Drac. They can't possibly have the resources to build a fleet of ships like the Defiance, he whispered. It must be a bluff. Emperor Drac watched the humans leave, noting their confident stride and relaxed posture. Are you willing to risk the Empire to find out, Admiral? Because I am not. These humans are not primitive. They're dangerously innovative. And I begin to fear we've awakened something we don't fully understand. Outside the chamber, Captain Jack and Dr. Anna exchanged a subtle glance. Their gamble had worked. The Empire would negotiate now, not knowing that the Defiance was indeed their only completed warship. The other ships were merely engine cores, broadcasting similar signatures, a trick Earth's military had used for centuries to appear stronger than they were. But if all went well, they wouldn't need that trick much longer. The real fleet was already under construction back home. The Imperial War Room hummed with activity as Admiral Toole paced nervously before the massive holographic display. It showed the Defiance holding position at the edge of the Krell system, apparently waiting. The diplomatic talks have failed, Emperor Drac announced as he entered the room, his luminescent patterns pulsing deep red, a sign of anger. The humans refuse to submit to Imperial oversight. They demand recognition as an independent power. Admiral Toole bowed low. What are your orders, Emperor? Deploy the Imperial Armada. Show these upstart humans the true might of our empire. Emperor Drac commanded, his voice echoing through the chamber. 20 battlecruisers should be enough to deal with one ship, regardless of its unusual technology. Captain Venn, who stood quietly in the corner, stepped forward. With respect, Emperor, I believe we should reconsider. The humans have demonstrated capabilities we don't fully understand. Emperor Drac turned his massive head toward Captain Venn. Are you suggesting we allow a primitive species to dictate terms to the Empire? That we show weakness? Not weakness, caution, Captain Venn replied, at least until we better understand their technology. Your caution is noted, Captain, the Emperor said coldly. But the decision is made. Admiral Toole will lead the attack personally. As the Emperor left, Captain Venn approached Admiral Toole. Be careful, Admiral. Don't underestimate them again. Admiral Toole's scales flickered with annoyance. One ship against 20 of our finest battlecruisers? The odds favor us, Captain, regardless of their technology. Hours later, Admiral Toole stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Conqueror, leading the most impressive battle formation the Empire had assembled in decades. 20 sleek, deadly battlecruisers arranged in perfect attack formation, their energy weapons charged in shields at maximum strength. Before them floated the Defiance, alone and seemingly vulnerable. Its blocky, overbuilt design looked crude next to the elegant Imperial vessels. Open communication channels, ordered Admiral Toole. Captain Jack's face appeared on the main screen, looking remarkably calm for someone facing overwhelming odds. Captain, Jack, this is your final opportunity to surrender your vessel and submit to Imperial authority, Admiral Toole declared. Your ship is impressive, but it cannot stand against the Imperial Armada. Captain Jack smiled slightly. Admiral, we came here seeking peace. You chose war. What happens next is on your conscience, not ours. You threaten us with a single ship? Admiral Toole laughed. Your confidence borders on madness. Not confidence, mathematics, replied Captain Jack. You still don't understand what you're facing, but you will. The transmission ended abruptly. Prepare all weapons, Admiral Toole ordered. Target their propulsion systems first. I want that ship disabled, not destroyed. The 20 Imperial battlecruisers moved into attack position, surrounding the Defiance. On Admiral Toole's command, they fired simultaneously, their energy weapons creating a beautiful but deadly light show in the darkness of space. To everyone's shock, the energy beams seemed to bend around the human vessel, as if sliding off an invisible surface. What happened? Demanded Admiral Toole. Report. Sir, the weapons officer stammered. They appear to have some sort of gravitational shield. It's bending our energy weapons away from the hull. Impossible, Admiral Toole hissed. No shield technology can— Sir, the sensor officer interrupted. The human ship is powering up its weapons systems. On the view screen, they watched as panels slid open along the Defiance's hull, revealing what looked like primitive gun barrels. They're using projectile weapons in space? Admiral Toole scoffed. How primitive? The sensor officer's voice shook as he replied. Sir, those aren't ordinary projectiles. They're accelerating to near light speed. The energy readings are off the charts. Before Admiral Toole could respond, the Defiance fired. There was no beam of light, no visible energy discharge, just a silent, invisible attack that tore through. The Relentless, one of their most advanced battlecruisers. Its shields, designed to stop energy weapons, offered no protection against physical objects moving at such speeds. Evasive maneuvers, shouted Admiral Toole, his composure finally breaking. All ships, scatter formation. But the Defiance was already firing again and again, each shot precisely targeted and devastatingly effective. Imperial battlecruisers, the pride of their fleet, were being disabled one by technology the Empire had dismissed as inefficient centuries ago. Sir, we've lost 6 ships already, reported the communications officer. 3 completely destroyed, 3 disabled. How? Admiral Toole demanded. How can one ship do this? The science officer looked up from his console, his face pale. Their firing solution is perfect, sir. They've calculated the exact point to hit each ship to disable its primary systems with minimal damage. And their rate of fire, it's beyond anything we've ever seen. On the main screen, they watched as the Defiance methodically targeted another Imperial vessel. This time, they could see what was happening more clearly. The human ship fired what appeared to be a small metal projectile, no bigger than a finger. But moving at near light speed, its kinetic energy was enormous, punching through the Imperial ship's hull like paper. Sir, they're hailing us, the communications officer said. Captain, Jack's face appeared again, his expression now serious. Admiral Toole, you've lost 9 ships. None of your weapons can penetrate our gravitational shields. Please stop this before more lives are lost. Admiral Toole stared at the screen in disbelief. Half his fleet, disabled or destroyed in less than 10 minutes without the human ship taking a single hit. What are you? He whispered. Just humans, Admiral, replied Captain Jack. We simply took a different path. While you perfected energy weapons, we focused on kinetics. While you built elegant single-core computers, we built redundant networks. While you refined minimal designs, we overbuilt everything. Another Imperial battlecruiser exploded silently, in the background, emphasizing his point. Our shields aren't energy fields trying to stop your weapons, Captain Jack continued. They're gravitational lenses, bending space itself to divert your attacks. Different approach, better results. Admiral Toole felt something he hadn't experienced in centuries. Fear. The Empire had always believed its technology was the pinnacle of advancement, that elegant solutions were inherently superior. Now, faced with the brutal effectiveness of human engineering, he was no longer certain. Stand down all weapons, he finally ordered, his voice barely audible. All ships, cease fire. A collective gasp went through the bridge. Never in living memory had an Imperial fleet retreated from battle. Sir? The weapons officer questioned uncertainly. You heard me, Admiral Toole said more firmly. We cannot win this fight, not today. Turning back to the screen, he addressed Captain Jack. We will withdraw our forces, Captain. But know this. The Empire does not forget, and it does not forgive. This is not over. Captain Jack nodded solemnly. We hope for peace, Admiral, but we're prepared for the alternative. Safe journey home. As the remaining Imperial ships limped away, Admiral Toole stared at the Defiance through the view screen. One ship had defeated half the Imperial Armada. The implications were staggering. Set course for the capital, he ordered quietly. The Emperor must be informed immediately. As the Imperial flagship entered faster-than-light travel, Admiral Toole couldn't shake the feeling that everything had changed. The Empire had ruled the galaxy for millennia, based on the assumption of technological superiority. That assumption had just been shattered by a species they had dismissed as primitive just months ago. And if the humans had built one such warship, how many more might they have? The thought sent a chill down his spine. The age of Imperial dominance might be coming to an end, not with a drawn-out war, but with a single battle that exposed the fundamental flaw in their thinking. Sometimes the elegant solution wasn't the best one after all. The Galactic Empire freaks out. That can't be a human warship. Is that possible? Part 5. A New Galactic Order. The Imperial capital planet Zarvis Prime had never seen such chaos. News of the Imperial Armada's defeat spread like wildfire across thousands of worlds. In the Grand Imperial Palace, Emperor Drac faced an unprecedented crisis as representatives from dozens of species demanded emergency council sessions. The humans defeated half our fleet with a single ship? Asked Councillor Vex of the Tulari Confederation, his antennae twitching with disbelief. The same humans we classified as a primitive species just months ago. Emperor Drac sat heavily on his throne, his once bright bioluminescent patterns now dim with stress. The reports are accurate, he admitted reluctantly. Their technology followed different development paths than ours. We underestimated them. The council chamber erupted in shouting. Some demanded immediate all-out war against Earth, others called for negotiation, and a few were already discussing how to align themselves with the humans for protection against Imperial retribution. Silence, roared Emperor Drac, rising to his full height. We are the Galactic Empire. We have ruled for 10,000 years. We will not be undone by one setback. As the chamber quieted, the doors slid open. All heads turned to see Captain Ven enter with an urgent message. Emperor, he said, bowing quickly, our long-range sensors have detected multiple ships entering Imperial space. They match the Defiance's energy signature. How many? Asked Admiral Toole, his scales now a sickly yellow-gray. Captain Ven's cybernetic eye whirred as he projected data onto the main screen. 17 vessels, Emperor, all apparently of human design. A heavy silence fell over the council chamber. After witnessing what one such ship could do, the thought of facing 17 was terrifying. They're arranging themselves in a defensive formation around key Imperial trade routes, Captain Ven continued. Not attacking, just positioning. A blockade? Suggested Councillor Vex. No, replied Captain Ven. They're allowing all ships to pass freely. They appear to be simply observing. Emperor Drac's mind raced. This was worse than an attack. It was a demonstration. The humans were showing they could deploy ships throughout Imperial space at will. They're requesting communication, Emperor, Captain Ven added. Captain Jack wishes to speak directly to the Council. Emperor Drac nodded grimly. Put him through. The main screen flickered, and Captain Jack appeared, now wearing a more formal uniform with simple insignia. Emperor Drac, honorable council members, he began with a polite nod. I hope our ship's presence hasn't caused undue alarm. They're under strict orders to maintain position and take no hostile action unless provoked. You deploy warships throughout our territory and claim peaceful intentions, Admiral Toole hissed. This is an act of war. Captain Jack remained calm. Actually, Admiral, we consider it necessary protection for our diplomatic team. Your attack, On the Defiance made it clear that some elements of your empire prefer force to negotiation. What do you want, human? Emperor Drac asked directly, silencing Admiral Tool with a glare. The same thing we've wanted from the beginning. Peaceful coexistence, replied Captain Jack. Earth has no desire for conquest or subjugation, but neither will we be subjugated. Your terms? Asked Emperor Drac, surprising everyone with his directness. Captain Jack seemed pleased by the Emperor's practicality. Recognition of Earth and its colonies as a sovereign entity, non-aggression pacts, fair trade agreements, and... He paused, looking directly at Emperor Drac. An end to the Empire's policy of forced assimilation, not just for humans, but for all species. The Council erupted again. What Captain Jack was proposing would fundamentally change the Empire's expansion model that had existed for millennia. Impossible, shouted several councilors. Emperor Drac raised a hand for silence. You ask too much, human. The Empire's methods have maintained peace and order for 10,000 years. Have they? Countered Captain Jack. Or have they simply suppressed resistance through overwhelming force? Force that, as we've demonstrated, is no longer overwhelming. As if on cue, the screen split to show feeds from the 17 human ships now positioned throughout Imperial space. Each one looked slightly different from the Defiance, some larger, some smaller, but all sharing the same blocky, overbuilt design philosophy. Each of these ships is specialized, Captain Jack explained. Some for defense, others for support, others for combat. Together they form the first human interstellar fleet. A small demonstration of what we can build when necessary. Emperor Drac understood the implicit threat. The Empire had always relied on its technological advantage to maintain control. If the humans could build ships that rendered Imperial weapons ineffective, everything changed. And if we refuse your terms, he asked quietly, then we'll defend ourselves, Captain Jack said simply. But we hope it won't come to that. We're offering partnership, not surrender. The Emperor studied the human captain thoughtfully. You could have attacked when our fleet retreated. You held the advantage. Why didn't you? Captain Jack's expression softened slightly. Because that's not who we are, Emperor. Humans have fought countless wars among ourselves throughout our history. We've learned the hard way that victory through destruction only leads to more conflict. He gestured to someone off-screen, and Dr. Anna stepped into view. We've prepared a proposal, she said, for a new kind of galactic alliance. Not an empire ruled by one species, but a confederation of equals, each contributing their unique perspectives and technologies. Data began streaming to the Imperial systems. Detailed plans for a restructured galactic government, trade agreements, technological exchange protocols, and more. We've studied your history, Dr. Anna continued. Your empire began as a force for stability after the Chaos Wars. You brought order to a fractured galaxy, but systems must evolve or they stagnate and eventually collapse. Emperor Drac was silent for a long moment, processing. In his 10,000 years of rule, no species had ever approached the Empire as equals. They had always been conquered, or they had submitted willingly. This was unprecedented. Your proposal will require consideration, he finally said. The Empire does not change course quickly. We understand, replied Captain Jack. Our fleet will maintain position as a goodwill gesture, but will take no hostile action. Our diplomatic team will remain available for further discussions. After the transmission ended, the council chamber remained silent. For the first time in living memory, the Empire faced a species it could not simply overwhelm with superior technology or numbers. Could we defeat them in an all-out war? Emperor Drac asked Admiral Tool privately after dismissing the council. Admiral Tool's scales flickered with uncertainty. Perhaps, Emperor, but the cost would be immense, and if there are more human ships under construction— There are, confirmed Captain Venn, who had remained behind. Our intelligence suggests their production facilities are operating at full capacity. They're building more ships even as we speak. Emperor Drac moved to the window overlooking the capital city. For 10 millennia, the Empire had represented the pinnacle of galactic civilization. Its technology was unmatched, its military undefeated. Now, a species they had dismissed as primitive had fundamentally challenged that order. Perhaps, he said slowly, it is time for the Empire to evolve, as the humans suggested. Admiral Tool looked shocked. Emperor, you can't seriously be considering their proposal, can't I? Emperor Drac turned to face his most trusted advisor. Our defeat wasn't just military, Admiral. It was philosophical. We believed our technological path was the only valid one. The humans proved otherwise. What other assumptions might we be wrong about? Captain Ven stepped forward. The humans' approach to technology is fascinating, Emperor. Different but effective. If we could learn from each other rather than fight. The Emperor nodded thoughtfully. Prepare a response to the humans. We will negotiate. As word spread throughout the galaxy that the mighty Empire was negotiating, with humans as equals, other species began to reconsider their place in the galactic order. Some reached out to Earth directly, seeking alliances and trade agreements. Others began demanding similar treatment from the Empire. A new era was beginning, not through conquest or submission, but through the recognition that different paths could lead to similar destinations, and that sometimes the most elegant solution wasn't always the best one. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Jack received the Emperor's response and smiled. Phase 1 was complete. Humanity had earned its place among the stars not by becoming like the other species, but by remaining uniquely human, innovative, adaptive, and endlessly resourceful. The real work was just beginning.